moment. We have been learning together about a word, splachnisomai. Say it with me, the whole thing, ready? Splachnisomai. And it's supposed to sound at the front end like you're about to throw up. That's what it's supposed to sound like. On purpose, because the word represents this feeling deep, deep, deep in your gut. An ache that becomes associated with compassion. This sense of empathy and sympathy, this being moved by somebody else's pain and in such a degree that you would do something by it. And we've been talking about this word and seeing all these places in the synoptic gospels, the Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the three of the four gospels, where this word is chosen and the stories around that. And today, we get the last two stories. We're just going to look at one version, the Matthew version, where we've already started to talk about feeding the 4,000. There's another version of that story in Mark's gospel. It's not significantly different. There's no reason to jump between the two. And so today, in just a second, we're going to look at this story of what it means in this one particular context for Jesus to not just see people, but to feel and squeeze in vulnerability what they're going through. And in this particular instance, to squeeze and feel and then act in such a way that he's going to feed them, literally feed them. And then we're going to connect that to our celebration that we have each month as we celebrate communion. I want you to think about that word. You might be more familiar with calling it the Lord's Supper, and that's fine too. But the word union is about connection. It's easy for you to think about it in communion, and thinking about community, all the community, in union. All of us in union with God, in union with one another, in union through a meal. All the ways that a literal table that Jesus sat around, or in this particular instance, when we look at the feeding of the 4,000, this meal that happens all over a mountainside, of Jesus being willing to dine with anybody and everybody, of Jesus caring that you know that you belong and that there are no place cards at the table for those who are significant or not. And to put all of these things together in such a way that we might then be inspired for the role we play. And that's what I want you to maybe look for today. As I read this story, look for the part that you play, and it may be more than one. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 15, beginning in verse 29. Listen as I read. Jesus left there and went along the Sea of Galilee. Then he went up on a mountainside and sat down. Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. Now, I want you to think about what I just read and consider three groups of people. Oftentimes we see the two, but I don't want you to miss the three. So obviously there's Jesus, and we're going to see his disciples later. There's the Jesus team of people. Jesus is traveling. There's a group of people who are traveling with him, and he's going to end up on this mountainside. And then there are these people that are described with these challenges, external challenges, that may reflect a whole lot internally. It says that there are the blind and the crippled and the mute and many, many others. People needing healing, and Jesus is going to heal. But there's one other group. It says that great crowds came to him bringing. There were the bringers. Have you ever considered, in all the times we've heard these kinds of stories, they're going to say, Jesus is going to say, wow, they're way far off and joined us out here. They've stayed with us a long time. But how did the lame people get there? How did the blind people find their way? how did this happen? There were those people in between who were the bringers. There's somebody who not only does Jesus do, there's somebody who saw a human being and said, we've heard Jesus is over there. Get on my back. I am going to carry you there until you get healed. There is somebody who said, let me take you by the hand. I know you can't find it by yourself. You're blind. But let me bring you to him. Let me lay you at his feet. How many of them put together animals? How many of them had any kind of cart? How many of them are going out of their way? They're going to be there for over 3 days, but some of them, they aren't there because they're blind. They might not even be there because they're so interested in what Jesus had to say. They're there because they're being instruments of love to see people and ache for people and take action themselves so that they'd even be close enough to be on the mountaintop for this to happen. Now, when we look at this, there are us, many of us. And if we didn't just take it, literally on the outside, we've got things that make us not function fully right, that where we're lame or crippled. There are some things of our past that cripple us. There's some ways we just can't see our way forward. Some things that have so affected us that our mind is not even available to kind of check that out and consider that opportunity, no matter how many friends say, you don't have to see it quite that way. There are many of us, we don't have the words to use. We don't know how to ask for help. We don't know how to talk our way through it. We could put ourselves in the categories of this, and if we're honest, every one of us could look closely enough. We have a place where we're still deeply in need of healing. But it's also the case that if we're here because we're trying to learn how to be, because we've already decided what we want our lives to be about, are being the followers of Jesus, the ones who would be vulnerable enough to see and feel and have our stomachs squeezed with somebody else's ache and act upon it, that we're the people who should be the bringers too. That's the possibility. We've actually talked about it. Over here in this corner, I put the board back up. We did this for a period of time, and what I think we're going to do is each first Sunday when we have communion, we're going to put that board that has the multicolored paper back up, and there's some paper out, and those were things to collect stories. But those are stories of when you and I are willing to be the bringers, the go-betweeners, right? We started with something insignificant, but significant, $10. But it's not just about giving money. It's about using whatever the resources are. It's about coming together, and maybe it requires much more than this. It may be about time. It may be about making a meal. It may be about inviting somebody in. It may be about going and being with somebody. There's a multitude of ways that we would act in such a way that we see you. We ache or recognize with you. We may not be able to solve all that it is, but we are going to take whatever action we can. We're going to use what we have, and we're going to bring where you are, lay you, in essence, closer to Jesus, and then hopefully see something change that can amaze us. And wherever that's happening in the days ahead, I encourage you to put it on one of these sheets of paper when you're here before you leave, today or throughout, or bring it from home. And each time we'll get it back out, hopefully with new stories that then we also can all go over there and read and go, oh, that's what somebody did. That's an idea I could have. Oh, that's what's happening around us. That's us being the church. Not just having church, not just pointing people to the church, us being the church. Us being the bringers, and then find what happens in the bringing. That it's not just those who they thought needed the healing that were affected. Let's look a little more closely. It says, beginning in verse 31. Well, let's go back and just read verse 30 for fun. Verse 30. Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. The people were amazed. When they saw the mute speaking, the crippled made well, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. Don't we all want this? Isn't this all what we want to be part of our lives, part of our stories, part of our little blue notes? They were amazed. They weren't amazed that they did something. They might have even missed that they did something, but they were amazed that they were part of something. I mean, it would be amazing to be blind and then to see, but how amazing would it be to be the person who sees a blind person, reaches out to them, takes them by the hand, walks for a long time to get to a mountainside, and then holds out until it's time, and then sees that blind person see and know you had something to do with it. To know that your praise is like God did something so much beyond me, but I can't believe that it worked. I can't believe that it matters. I can't believe that whatever I had to miss, whatever instances for the days that I was gone, whatever work that I missed, whatever things that I missed, because I had devoted myself to this person in front of me, and I saw them, and I didn't just feel, but I felt, and when I felt, I acted. And that there was something that goes on when we are willing to be those kind of people that doesn't just cheer for the other person who does get the thing that goes better. Maybe a healing that just can't even imagine. But because it's amazing when you see it happen to think, there is a God who could do this. There is a God who would use you and me to be part of this. There's a God who's possibly here for my lameness. And I know that because I help this person with their muteness. That when the journey is made and when Jesus has people laid at his feet and when he makes this change, it's not just God is awesome. And it's not just I'm glad for them. It is a connection. Somehow God and us and each other are all one, are all healing, are all experiencing love, are all being transformed. Now that group of people all together then has this need. It says in verse 32, Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people. There's our word, splagnizomai. I have compassion for these people. But in this moment, he's not really saying, I have compassion for all those that are lame. That's already obvious. He's already seeing and aching and acting for them. But in this moment, Jesus is also recognizing a very practical other need. He says, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. Like whether they had a plan, whether they didn't even have a plan, which again to me is just so much more exciting. To think, I so saw somebody, heard there's a thing happening, believed if I take you, you and me are going to get there and your life's going to be different for forever. If I got food or not got food, I don't care. That's beautiful. That's not just a bunch of poor planners. That's not just a bunch of people looking for a free giveaway. These are people that Jesus is saying, I am so moved by the people who didn't think of themselves and thought, I'm so hungry I need to be here. Who didn't think of themselves and thought, I would rather be healed than be anywhere else. That also, though, who didn't think of themselves and thought, I'm going to bring somebody to him just to see if it works. Because I would rather have my life be about caring for you and believing that the God of the universe would heal you because I got you there, than I would worry about whether or not I'll have some food or I need to head back now. And so Jesus, feeling for those who could act and feel in that way, says, I do not want to send them away hungry or they may collapse on the way. The disciples answered, where could we get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd? How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied, and a few small fish. He told the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and they in turn to the people. Look at that pattern one more time. All of this that could just be the way the story went or could have significant meaning. But Jesus is concerned about them not just coming away, but getting back into their lives at full strength. Getting back into their lives to retell the stories and to keep living this way, to keep seeing and aching and acting. And so I don't want them to collapse on the way home. The point wasn't to get you to church and not worried about how you got back into life afterwards. It was the full circle of all of your life. And the disciples, in a practical sense, is how in the world? Like, if it was done, if it was possible, like they would have already just gotten their own food. So what do you have? That question. What do you have? Because let's start there. What do you have? And the description is that you had some bread. 7, the perfect number. Like this is what you had. And some fish. Well, we're just going to start with what you have. What you have is enough to get started. And we're going to take it and we're going to be grateful for it. For the $10 I have, the $10 I don't have. For the person in front of me, for the person I have to seek out. For the obstacles I'm going to face and things that I'm going to have to reconnect after I get back. For all of the good and all of the bad, let's just take whatever we have and let's put it together and be grateful for it, and then let's offer it to the world. And how does he do it? Again, with go-betweens. He's about to take that bread and give it to the team, and the team's going to give it to them. Again, the picture is not just Jesus doing something on his own, not just God healing by himself, that there's a group of us, the in-betweeners, the bringers, who are going to now bring the bread to the people who are hungry. We're going to model that even right here. When we do this in just a minute, we'll have a group of deacons come, and between the table and you receiving your opportunity to taste some bread and some juice, we're going to have somebody else helping hand it off. Maybe that's just the way it's always been. Maybe that's just the way you've always seen it in church. But today, I hope you'll see it as the connection that God's making. Like, we're those people. We see what's going on so that we might have the eyes that make us not blind, but have the eyes like Jesus' eyes, that we might have the ache like Jesus' ache, that we might act to do what it is to help people move towards healing. But even where there is the healing, we're the people who would receive what God has for our hunger, and we give it to somebody else for their hunger. This is how God chooses to work through us. Not just around us, not always in spite of us, but through us. The invitation is, come, be a partner with me. Be one with me. Become like your teacher. See and ache and act, and together find that there is greater healing than you could possibly imagine, but you're amazed because you're a part of it. That the healing of others gets on the healing of you. That the feeding of others feeds your own soul. That our longing for connection happens when we're the ones who make connections with others, not sit around and wait for everybody else to connect with us. And so we get this picture of not just some miracle that we go, ooh, isn't Jesus powerful? Isn't God cool? Yeah. But what about these people that he is using to make it all happen? Look at the end here. It says, verse 36 again, then he took the 7 loaves and the fishes, and when he had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and they in turn to the people. They all ate. That's part of the reason why we do it the way we're currently doing it here right now, is all of you are welcome to eat. Not just the clean, not just the confirmed, everybody. Why? Because God gave to everyone at the moment that they needed it, at the moment that they wanted it. And if you want to participate, you're welcome. All ate and were satisfied. All that ate could keep on eating. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. For every loaf, there's a basket. For every loaf that gave beyond what could possibly be realistic, there was still a basket full, because in God's economy of graciousness, there's more than enough. We don't run out of love. We don't have to conserve love. We find that even though we might not have all the money or all the time or all the expertise, that somehow in combination with God and one another, there'll be more than enough in whatever we need. We just keep going. The number of those who ate was 4,000 men, besides some women and children. After Jesus had sent the crowd away, he got into the boat and went into the vicinity of Magadan. Here is this picture, but it's so much more than just, wow, there were some hungry folks. God made food show up. That's the part that just is there and is gone. But once upon a time, there were people that were so turned on to the belief that God was at work that they started looking around them differently, and they started feeling differently, and they started acting differently, as if what happens to you matters to me. Your hunger is my hunger. Your hurt is my hurt. Your healing is my healing. And when they started to act, they could find themselves in places where amazing things started to happen for all of them. And in all of that, God is not just using us, God is caring for even us who are partnering with him to say, and in the midst of that, I want you to know that not only you're a part, I'm aware of your needs too. I'm aware of your hungers too. And so you see that person and you bring that person, and then I've got this person who's going to help feed you this thing, and all together we're in communion. We're in union. We're one, and it's the kingdom coming and the will being done on earth in this moment as it is forever in perfectness. And you get to be a part. What would it be for us to just believe each day, that's why I've got breath? That I would open my eyes, that I'd be open to ache, that I'd be open to act, that I'd be open to be amazed, that I'd be open to acknowledge my own hunger, that I would seek God to provide that hunger, that I would hold God's hand in other people's hand and somehow bring them together in some explosion of love. And then I'd have stories to tell about what that's like. In just a minute, we're going to have a song to help us prepare for it. And then we're going to have an opportunity for everyone to be involved in taking a little bit of bread and a little bit of juice and being reminded that this is how God is. This is how God is with us. This is what God wants to do with us. And to use it as the fuel that we might choose to live this way and see what stories we have to tell. To see that when we start to make available our own limited resources, somehow all of a sudden we find ourselves with more resources to give away. And more. Somehow the flow just keeps going as we use it in the way of love. Let's pray. God, we have this practice maybe we've done years and years and years and years, and maybe it's just become old hat, but today let it be fresh and new. God, we have this story, and we've heard it before, we've taught it before, we know it before, but today let it be brand new. Will you open up amazement inside of us today? Will you open up a willingness to reroute our lives as you actually make us less and less blind, more and more able to see, as you make us more and more able to feel, more and more willing to be vulnerable and squeezed, because we would more and more, in the ways that we can, act. Use whatever little we have and find that it's not only enough, it's more than enough, and there's some left over. Will you multiply even our broken pieces so that we might be able to use those broken pieces for somebody else to also be able to eat? God, somebody today, that phrase is what means everything to them. That they look at their life, and in this moment, we see all of our broken pieces and think we don't have as much to offer. We only have broken pieces left to offer, and yet will you let us know that today, that's exactly what you want us to give, to pass our broken pieces in a way that others can eat and be satisfied. Will you use this moment for us to feel connected to you, and use this week for us to live in connection with everyone and everything. In Jesus' name, amen. As we sing the song, deacons, if you'll stay put, I will call you up after our song is over.